Firstly, we will have a recap on variables, if-else statements, loops, and then we'll learn a bit about the random library before we move on to a warm-up challenge, and then our actual guess the number challenge, and then some resources. So recap. So this is similar to the one that we did last week, but if you didn't join us, it's fine. So we'll just go through it together again. So a variable is a place to store information in a program. Think of it like a box. So you can put a value inside the box, and the box also has a type, and then you can give it a name. So these are the different variable types. You have integer value, so like x equals to 5. You have float, which is like a real number value with decimal points. So for example, x equals 5.5. And then you have Boolean logical values, which are true or false. And then last one is supposed to be string. And then it's text characters. So it's always between like either single quotation marks or double quotation marks. So something like this. Next, we will recap if-else statements. So if-else statements, it will execute the body of if only when the test condition is true. Otherwise, the body of else is executed. So for example, for this one, if light equals green, then you will print accelerate, else print break. So this is how it's like. So if the light is green, and if it's true, then it will print accelerate. If this is false, then it will go into the else statement body and it will print break. Next, we have elif statement. So this is actually short for else if and allows us to check for multiple expressions. So firstly, if light equals green, print accelerate. And if light equals yellow, print slow down, else print break. So it looks like this. So if light equals to green is true, you print accelerate. However, if it's false, then it goes into the next. It goes to the elif statement and it will check if light equals to yellow. If it's true, it will print slow down. However, if it's false, then it will go into the else statement body and print break. Okay, and next we'll recap while and for loops. So for loops, you'll be using it to do something a set number of times. So an example would be for I in range 5, print hello. So what this actually does is it will print the word hello 5 times. So you know how many times you want this thing to happen. So that's when you use for loops. Next, while loops is when you do something until the condition is no longer true. So for example, this one, I equals to 1. While I is less than 6, print I, and then you add 1 to I. So what this does, it will keep printing. So we'll print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after it prints 5, it will add 1 to I, it will become 6. And when I equals to 6, this condition no longer holds true. So it will get out of this while loop. So this is a short summary of the different if-else statements and for while loops. So you look from the right. So is it a one-off event? If it is, then you ask yourself, do you have a backup plan? If you don't, then you use only if. However, if you do have a backup plan, then you'll use an if-else statement. But then if this is not a one-off event, then do you know how many times you need to do it? If you do, then you use for loop. If not, you use a while loop. Okay, and now we'll learn something new today, which is the random library. So random is a built-in Python module that implements pseudo-random number generators for various distributions. So how you want to use this is you type import random, and then it will just import all the functions that this library has. So here are some of the functions that we will learn for today. So firstly, you have functions for integers. So you have random, not dot, rand, range, and then bracket, start, stop, step. I will go through what each of it means. And then the next one would be random dot rand int, A, B. And then for functions for sequences, it'll be random.choice, sequence, random.shuffle. Okay, so let's go into details for the very first one, which is random.randrange. So start.step. So what this entire thing actually does is it returns a random item from the given range. So for example, remember firstly, you always need to import this library. Okay, so for example, if I want to select an even number from 100 to 1000. So 100 is inclusive, but 1000 is exclusive. So how you do this is you use rand range, and then start would be 100, stop would be 1000. And what step means, it will be like so like from 100, then we'll plus 2 will be 102, 104. So this allows you to only choose an even number. So it will look something like this: random.randrange 100, 1002. Then if you want to select another number in 100 to 1000 in steps of, let's say, 3, then you will use random.randrange 100, 1003. Okay, and then next one would be random.randint. So this one returns a random integer in the range start end. So the A and B will be start and end. And this includes the endpoint. So it includes the starting and the end. So both A and B have to be integers. So it looks something like this. So you import it, and then you give this variable R1, this thing. So what it will do is it will choose a random integer from 0 to 10, and inclusive of both 0 and 10. So it will output a random number between 0 and 10 is 5. So you can also use it for negative integers like this. So you remember that your first one would be your smallest number, and then the second one would be the bigger number. So it would be between -10 and -1. So the output would be -7. Okay, and then we look into functions for sequences. So we look at random.choice. So what this does is it returns a randomly selected element from the specified sequence. So sequence can be a list, a type, a range of numbers. So let's look at an example. So for example, my list would have apple, banana, cherry. And then I would want to just choose something from this list. So I'll use random.choice and put in this name, my list. And what it does, it will output one of this. So it just does it randomly and you won't know what it will choose. And then another one would be choosing a random letter from a string. So now your string is welcome, and then you print random.choice, and then you put in your variable name. And then it just outputs a random letter.
So Shermaine, we do have a quick question. Someone asked, would the rand return a float?
So the first one, which is rand range, that one will return a float, but then rand int, because int is like short for integer, that one will only return an integer. Yeah.
So question, so what if you entered in like -1 and 0 for rand int? Would it return 0 or 1?
Yeah, so for rand int, it's inclusive of the start and end point. So it will output either -1 or 0.
Okay, so it would never return like a float in between those two numbers. No. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so we move on to the last one that we'll learn today, which is random.shuffle. So same thing, a sequence like a list. And you can, so what this function does is it reorganizes the order of the items. Then, so this method actually changes the original list. It does not return a new list for you. So for example, you first give it, you first come up with a variable called my list with apple, banana, cherry, and then you randomly shuffle it with this line of code. And if you print back the original name of my list, you actually realize that the entire sequence changes. So it would end up as cherry, banana, apple, or like they might just randomly shuffle it. So it actually changes the original list itself. Yep. So with that, okay, does anyone have any questions about the random library? If not, we will move on to the warm-up challenge. If you're still following, could all of you give me like a B? All right, okay, looks good. Okay, so let's look at our warm-up challenge. So it's a random lottery pick. Generate 2 random numbers from 1 to 100. Okay, let's take the random numbers as an integer for this question. So here are some questions that you might want to ask yourself. So what kind of loops should you use? Do you know how many times to generate? So in this question, it says generate 2 random numbers from 1 to 100. So you can actually use a for loop so that you can generate 2 random numbers. Next question. How should you generate only integers? Okay, let's leave it as integers from 1 to 100. Okay, let me give you guys some time to think about it. If you want, you can write down the code that you will type. You can put it on the chat, or you can just think about it. Yep, so Alwina, what Alwina said is correct. So remember that we learned the function random.randint, and then whatever is in the bracket will be inclusive. So you put random.randint 1, 100. Very good. And then next, how do you then want to output these numbers? So if you want to output it, then you'll use print. So let's look at how I would actually code it. So firstly, always import the library random. For I in range 2, so it will print out 2. So number equals random.randint 1, 100, and you print out the number. So this is how the different outputs will look like if I run it different times. So my first run, I had 79, 100. My second run, I got 1939. The third run, I had 84 and 61. So this is how you use the random library. So with that, does anyone have any questions? If you are good to go, then you can give me a B. If not, just leave your question in the chat. All right, seems like everyone is doing good. Okay, with that, then we'll move on to our guess the number challenge. And same thing, we will split into our breakout rooms. So with us today, we have Alwina and Poojita and I, who will be helping with the different breakout rooms. Would both of you like to introduce yourself to the participants? Maybe Alwina can start first, then Poojita.
I was going to let Poojita go first since she wasn't here the last time. But hi, everyone. My name is Alwina. I am based in New York City, and I volunteer with Python, the Women Who Code Python track.
Hi, everyone. I'm Poojita Garg. I'm joining from India, and I'm also a volunteer at Women Who Code Python.
Okay, with that, Stephanie has already prepared the breakout rooms, right?
I'm ready to go. Let me know when
Okay,
you're free.
thank you, Stephanie.
All right.
Okay, so now
See you all soon.
see y'all. Have fun. Okay. So hope everyone had fun in their breakout room. So this is a sample solution. I won't go through it because I'm sure you guys already know how it's like. So I hope you guys had fun playing the game though. Okay, so let's just wrap this up. So remember to stay connected with us. Join us on our Slack channel, on the study group channel, and our upcoming events. So for collab sessions, we are halfway through. So we have 2 more, one on 12 September and one on 19 September. And then we will also be continuing our content sessions. Our next one is on 9 September, 8 p.m. EDT, and another one on 16 September, 8 p.m. EDT. And you can also look at those on our website. And also, please remember to join our Slack channel so that you can see all the updates there. And yeah, so you can always ask us any questions on that channel as well. And all of us would be posting the collab links on those channels, on that channel actually. And yeah, so you can look at what the other breakout rooms did. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask us now or join our Slack channel at Beginner Python Study Group. And with that, thank you so much for your time today. And I hope all of you learned something new and had fun. Yep, Stephanie just posted the link to join Slack, so do join us there. With that, thank you so much, everyone.